99X and the Morning X. It's Barnes and Leslie. Fram, I know you eat out a lot.
Yeah, I love trying new restaurants. That's one of my things.
Same. And, Atlanta's got a booming, arguably one of the best restaurant scenes in the country.
Totally agree.
I'm noticing something, and then I saw an article about it in the Wall Street Journal by a contributor, Alina Dzik, and basically sharing is caring, but not when it comes to restaurant profits. So you may or may not be noticing as more and more diners opt to split appetizers. Say you go out to grab dinner with a friend, you're like, oh, we're not going to get the full thing, let's get some appetizers. And split entrees also to save money. Restaurants are finding ways to discourage this practice and boost their revenues. And they're doing a lot of what I think are kind of little sneaky moves, which they're going to think they're business moves. But the person who wrote that article in the Wall Street Journal, Alina Dzik, joins us. Hey, Alina.
Hi, how are you?
Doing very good. Thank you for coming on with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we have to talk about these restaurant hacks because I personally love going to places like Barcelona with my friends and then kind of just doing sharing stuff. And I know what is happening now is that, restaurants are just trying to stay in business. So talk about some of these hacks.
So yeah, you're right. Restaurants are just trying to stay in business, and they've seen their expenses rise and labor costs rise. And so they're offering kind of larger, more expensive plates to encourage people to share, but still kind of pay their fair share of the check. And they're also offering little tiny but expensive bites to discourage people to share those. So they're kind of nudging diners in different directions when it comes to sharing.
But Alina, what I feel like has been happening, especially since COVID, you're getting kind of, as a consumer, kind of attacked on all sides. You're getting a raise in the dishes. Like I noticed some of the places I go where, like at lunch, it might have been $11 or $12. Now it's $16. And then you have the spin around of the iPad, which everyone jokes about, which tipping starts at like 30%. And now you have them trying to cut you from, maybe you want to go in and just get the kids, the kids' dish, which is less food. So I don't know why they get pissed at you for doing that. But do you feel the same way? Is that coming from all angles?
I think so. I think definitely restaurants or going out to eat now is just more expensive for consumers. And but from the restaurant standpoint, they have to stay in business. So they're really trying to be creative about it, while maybe having their consumers feel like they're getting a fair deal, whether or not that's working.
It's definitely happened in New York after COVID, Barnes, because, labor costs have gone up, rent has gone up. A lot of people are struggling to stay in business. But what hurts is that I do personally like to share meals or split meals with my husband because sometimes I'm just not that hungry.
Yeah, but they don't have to worry about that with me because I don't like to share. My wife gets mad at me all the time. If I order it, I want to eat it. No, but it's not, Alina, it's not the consumers. Like if I was the restaurant and all the competition that these restaurants have, of course, I don't wish anyone to go out of business. But you have to appeal to the consumer rather than repel the consumer, which I feel there have been a couple places I've gone lately where the bill's just ridiculous now. And I go, you know what? I'll go to restaurant B instead.
One of the restaurateurs that I spoke to for this article called it, appealing to diners more gently. So I thought that was kind of fun because they don't want to say, okay, we're going to charge a split fee or we're going to do something, really, really, really different than what we've been doing. So they are trying to be more gentle about it.
Well, how are they dissuading people, though, from splitting something? Because a lot of couples do that. What are the restaurants doing in that case?
They're not totally dissuading. They're more like offering bigger, more expensive portions. So you could split those, but still kind of pay an entree sized amount, or you can have a little bite, which you physically cannot split. And so you would get it, one for each person at the table. So those are some of the things that they're doing. So they're not actually saying no splitting, or they'll encourage people to get more plates in general.
And then Barnes, it's the whole cocktail thing because, now you've got your cocktail menu, which I like to do. But now they've gone up from, I've noticed, from 18 to 20 to now 25 to 27 for a cocktail.
They've gone up as well. We're talking to Alina Dzik, who is a contributor to the Wall Street Journal, this big piece on these restaurant schemes that are going on everywhere. What inspired you to write this? Like, how did it come to you to fuel an article in the Wall Street Journal?
Yeah, I think the topic was just as a diner, as a consumer, I've been kind of noticing these ways that, especially the little bites, I feel like, okay, clearly you don't want people splitting those. And there must be something kind of behind that, because they're sometimes very expensive with caviar on top, whatever, etc. And so I kind of, dug into that.
I want to ask you a question, Barnes, because this comes up a lot. She pointed out a person in her article that is now, when she goes out with a group of friends, she asks for a separate check. Because, you're with a bunch of people and maybe you don't order as much or drink as much, and then everybody throws in their credit card. Do you do that, Barnes? Do you ask, if you're with a group of people, do you ask for a separate check?
Only if one of the groups was, say, drinking a lot and you're not drinking at all. Like, if I'm having an iced tea and everyone's like ordering bottles of wine, I would say, I think it's obvious.
Agree.
Unless you have someone who's trying to mooch off your business. But I don't know, Alina. I think this is definitely the cart pulling the horse, and it's going to piss off a consumer more than the few bucks you're going to gain from the ones who just grin and take it, because there's so much competition.
There is a lot of competition. I guess we'll have to see. Yeah. Maybe restaurants will go back on it and continue to encourage this. Yeah,
I've noticed some of the vacillating in restaurant items too, and I feel bad for them. It's tough, but there are too many people getting in that business. In Atlanta, there are so many that don't make it every year that are shut down. But there's got to be a better way than these schemy things. I guess just being more straightforward and honest about it. It just the whole adding things on the bottom of the bill. There was one adding $4 to pay for insurance for their workers. They were adding. Now that's a great sentiment, but is that the way you want? You know what I mean? Like, as a consumer, is that a put off, or are you like, oh well, that's a good idea? Still, at the end of the day, you're raising your bill by X amount of dollars.
I guess I'm talking as a consumer now, but I've seen that too. And I think the restaurants that do this are pretty forthcoming about it. They're like, I see signs by the register, et cetera. And I as a freelancer who didn't have health insurance for a long time, I'm happy to support
That's what
them.
I'm saying. That when you're forthcoming with it, that's just up to the consumer to decide if that annoys them or not. I think that's very forthcoming, and I would look at them with a positive sentiment for doing that, as opposed to being sneaky, like jacking up the tip thing and that whole pressure. It's a long drawn out conversation. But thank you for coming on, Alina.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.